Hello and welcome to Panorama's review of the 2020 Top 10 ERP Vendors Report. This is a report we've issued a little while ago, and we're going to take the next hour to talk through it in more detail and bring all of these different vendors to life for you. My name is Laura Mattier-Florence. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Panorama, and I am joined by my colleague, Chris DeVault, who is our Director of Vendor Relations. You'll see on this slide when you come back in the future our contact information, and we invite you to reach out if you would like to set up an hour consulting session. We will set up a phone call, and you can speak with Chris or one of our other client services director to talk about anything that you might be interested in regards to ERP. So the information for contact was on that prior slide. You'll see it again at the end. So in terms of our agenda today, we'll start with just a brief introduction to Panorama. And then I'm going to hand over to Chris, and he's going to really talk you through those top 10 ERP vendors that we've been working with over the last decade or so. And he's going to go and jump into the conversation around the cloud. What is the cloud? What does that mean? Who does it make sense for? And then we'll wrap up at the end. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into who is Panorama. So Panorama started 15 years ago as an ERP selection and implementation firm. At that time, it was, I'm going to put air quotes out there, a blue ocean strategy to be completely independent of the different software companies and products. So Panorama never has and never will sell software. That being said, we do work with all of those different software companies. Our methodology around selections and implementations has always included that three-legged stool of people taking a look at the change management piece, the process, taking a look at the business processes that our organizations are working with, and then the actual technology itself. And that is expanded beyond just ERP. So it could be your customer relationship management systems. It could be your human resources information systems. It could be your manufacturing information systems. So it's basically anything having to do with people, process, and technology. Now, that being said, folks come to us at all different stages of their technology initiatives. Sometimes folks come to us literally saying, we want to transform who we are. Let's say you're a mom and pop shop and you're ready to take it to that next level. Or maybe you have multiple brick and mortar storefronts and you have a website, but you really want to move into more of an omni-channel retail offering and change that customer experience. That digital transformation is a project that we are uniquely set up to support you with. So again, folks come to us looking for digital support, technology support, ERP selection implementation, and then everything around it. And then if things go super sideways, we can always come in and get things back on track, whether it's a project recovery or an expert witness case. In terms of the different industries, ERP at its heart supported the manufacturing and distribution companies out there. And so that is our bread and butter. That being said, we work with all different industries, both in the public and the private sector. Our methodology is completely agnostic, not only in terms of the industry, but also the size of the organizations that we work with. We are based in Denver, Colorado, and we are a boutique firm. We're about 40 folks between a combination of full-time and contract employees that we deploy globally, and we have clients all over the world. We are a pretty experienced firm, so the vast majority of our folks come in with experience from the big five or from the software companies, and Panorama as a culture puts a lot of emphasis on continuing education, and so they support getting those additional certifications around Six Sigma, getting upper graduate level degrees, etc. And then finally, the last thing on there, it talks about 360-degree ERP certified. So that is our internal certification. We have our own methodology that all of our client services personnel are trained in and deploy with. And that allows us to make sure that not only do we have consistent delivery, but that we're all on the same page. So that's a real quick overview of Panorama. Our next slide will show you some examples of some of our clients. So as I mentioned before, you'll see that there are examples here across all of the different industries. So this can be your nonprofit organizations. This is your food and beverage. This is manufacturing. This is services. This is public entities as well. And we have clients as small as a couple $1 million all the way up to $27 billion. We have serviced the #1 steel company, the #1 security services company. And so this is all absolutely in our wheelhouse. So the next piece is, what are the different products that we work with? And this is where I'm going to hand it over to Chris, as he is in charge of this aspect of our business.
Great, thanks, Laura. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Looking forward to our discussion. This is a quick snapshot of some of the ERP vendors that we work with. As Laura had mentioned, large and small, we've got all types of size of clientele, and therefore we have to understand all sorts of different sized ERP systems. So it goes right along with our clientele here. You can see we've got some of the major players, and we've got some unique systems such as supply chain management, specific CRM applications, maybe some workforce and even some nonprofit applications here. So just a quick snapshot of some of the systems that we work with. Of course, numerous systems on top of that. Now going into the remaining portion of the presentation, we're going to review the top 10 ERP vendors. Some of the criteria that we looked at here as we're choosing these vendors, really based on their functionality and the technology. This also comes from numerous RFIs and RFPs that we have done with our clients, and then also helping out through implementation sheds all sorts of light on these systems for us from a consulting standpoint. Then the report also includes general advice itself on the selection process. So our first vendor on the list today is SAP and their product S/4HANA, along with the SAP Business One and Business by Design. So SAP continues to innovate and continues to be a leader from a technology standpoint and a functional standpoint. S/4HANA is really designed for enterprise type organizations, and it goes really deep across all functional areas. The technology continues to lead as far as SaaS and hybrid and on-premise hosted managed services. Again, S4 is for large enterprise organizations, as SAP Business One and SAP by Design are more geared for the small and mid-market. The next ERP vendor on our list is Oracle and NetSuite. With the recent acquisition, NetSuite is a full entity of Oracle. The products here, the ERP cloud from Oracle itself, again, focuses and targets on large organization, larger enterprises, multiple locations, maybe a global footprint, and across many different functional areas as well. The cloud application itself is gaining its market share. It continues to mature, and Oracle continues to enrich the functionality and develop new functionality within the Oracle Cloud app itself. And then we have NetSuite. NetSuite's Oracle's answer for the small and mid-sized market. An excellent application for startup companies, small, mid-market companies. NetSuite offers a more rapid implementation with more out-of-the-box, pre-configured workflows that a lot of our clients are being able to take advantage of. And what that does is reduces the risk and duration and the cost of implementation there. Then Microsoft, obviously Microsoft continues to innovate and grow as a company, so do their ERP systems. The Dynamics 365 F&O has been fully consolidated, and many installs of it now in large organizations. That's really the target market, large organization type, enterprise type clientele. It was rewritten in Azure technology, and what we've really seen is the channel partners who kind of conduct the last mile, configure the last mile of functionality. They're really back up to speed on the development of their IP and where it really sits within the F&O application itself. And then you have Dynamics 365 Business Central. Business Central, again, is a combination of the best practices of NAV, which was Navision, Great Plains, GP, and then Solomon SL. All of which had a little bit of a niche focused area, whether it be professional services, finances, or manufacturing and distribution. All of the best practices have combined into Business Central and really targeting small mid-market type companies. Again, more rapid deployment, pure SaaS model available, single multi-tenant, and then also on-premise versions of both the applications are possible to deploy as well. N4 is the next vendor on the list, and N4 continues to grow as an organization. They have made some recent changes at the top, I think, which will continue their focus to deploy and develop and consolidate their product lines. They have applications that focus on enterprise and focus on small mid-market organizations here. Their enterprise applications are around M3 and LN. These are manufacturing distribution type applications serving enterprises. Real good in enterprise asset management, human capital as well. Then we've got N4 Cloud Suite Distribution and Cloud Suite Industrial. These are the applications that have been rewritten in cloud technology from N4, the N4 open services, and continue to gain market share here in the mid-market and small market division. Each of these applications has really good workflow, good technology supporting it, and can be developed and deployed again in multiple instances, whether it be on-prem, a hybrid, or a pure SaaS model. Moving right along here to the next vendor on the list is IFS. IFS is really specific towards manufacturing, distribution, and field services. They have one product and one ERP product only. So they are certainly gaining market share here in North America, very well versed in Europe. And they are, with some recent changes again here at the top, more focused on larger organizations, enterprise groups. They're also introducing a channel partnership, which would really spread the footprint of IFS here in North America. Excellent, rich functionality and really tailored for aerospace, defense, utility resources, construction, infrastructure, manufacturing, and service industries. The next system here on the list is Workday, and Workday, being a leading human capital management system, continues to adopt and develop ERP functionality. So they're gaining in their financials, and they are gaining in other functional areas. They do have a a great market share in the leader in SaaS technology as far as HCM, obviously a full hire to retire functionality, with advanced functionality configurable within each of those. So if maybe it's recruiting that you're more focused on, or maybe if it's talent retention and management that you're focused on, they have great flexibility in how they approach companies' requirements, and a growing ecosystem as well here of partners and clients. Epicor is next on the list. And Epicor continues to make its space in the tier 2 mid-market range here, small and mid-market applications or systems that Epicor targets. Epicor E10 is their flagship product. This is their manufacturing product. It does receive most of the R&D and has been rewritten in Azure and the Microsoft technology. You also have P21, which is a built for purpose distribution application. A lot of our clients are able to take streamlined implementation of this with some out-of-the-box standard best practices, and it's got very strong supply chain management and algorithms behind the scenes that really run the replenishment methodologies. And then Eagle is their retail omni-channel type application, really focused on, again, small and mid-market retail brick and mortars, omni-channel type clientele. Obis is the next ERP system on the list here, and Obis really lower tier 2 type customer target, but really rich in functionality and really plays well where it's a good fit. For instance, make to order, assemble to order, engineer to order environments that are small to mid market. Obis has recently gone through some changes with a private equity firm acquiring them and them doing some kind of revamping of their sales methodology and who they're targeting. So we'll continue to see Obis, as a leading manufacturer, smaller application, lower tier 2 type clientele. Now we have Deltek. Deltek really has a focus in the project management and the project space. It has, again, multiple products, Cost Point, Economy, Vantage Point. these different levels of products really can take care of enterprises, large organizations, and then small and mid-market, depending on what your needs are, requirements are. But Deltek continues to be a leader in the financials, along with project management, project accounting, across all sorts of kind of different industries that need that type of functionality. And then Sage continues its service, its line of multiple ERP systems. Sage Intacct is really their latest pure SaaS model. It's kind of like a NetSuite little brother. This is a smaller application geared for smaller type clientele. Sage X3 is their more enterprise application. We see it continue to be developed, and more partners are starting to adopt, reselling Sage X3 as well. And then they have Sage 100 and 300 ERP Cloud. This is really their small mid-market answering for manufacturing and distribution. Really good financials on the back end for Sage as always. So that was our 10 vendors. As we go into 2020 in the new year, we're going to talk about the cloud transition as well. Each of these applications that we had mentioned are certainly in the cloud and have gotten to the cloud in different ways. But we still see, the deployment models of the perpetual license and software as a service. The perpetual license is really the on-premise version. But what we see more of is people buying the perpetual license and possibly having it hosted somewhere. And then the SaaS model can be single tenant or multi-tenant, and there's some nuances and considerations when addressing and evaluating these SaaS model type applications. One of the things that you do have to consider here is whether you're going to have a data center or managed services take care of this. A lot of the vendors do this on their own. A lot of the vendor partners can host and manage the system for you. So there's some trade-offs and some total cost of ownership considerations that need to be considered there. And then what we saw last year was quite interesting, actually. Less than 25% of the companies purchasing perpetual license actually hosted themselves. So again, they're buying the on-premise version, but they're having somebody else host it for them. And a majority of organizations choosing the cloud are going the way of SaaS. So whether it be a single tenant or a multi-tenant, they are mostly choosing SaaS when they're choosing cloud, and that's a subscription-based way of using the software. Some of the considerations here, again, are the total cost of ownership. How much internal cost do you need with your IT team to host, and if any hardware if necessary, and then external. What are the trade-offs and the ramifications of somebody else hosting it for you, and are there cost savings there? You also have to consider risk and security. Everybody is worried about security of their data. Usually these vendors are very, very tight, and security is not an issue, but it's still perceived by our clients as that. There are certainly ways to get around that. You have to be, you do have to, have your own compliance and have your data governance properly, kind of mapped out in order to reduce that risk and then increase some of that security with the vendor. And then there's the self-sufficiency and compliance portion of this as well. So a lot of our clients still want to be more self-sufficient on the software. They don't want to rely on the vendors to upgrade for them. They want to make their own enhancements. And then depending on what industry, you may have certain compliance with FDA, different type of organizations where you have to prove that you're validated and tested in a secure environment. So those are all sorts of things that we need to consider. And just a brief update, kind of on the cloud transition. Again, each of these vendors is in the cloud in a SaaS model in different ways. All right, and now I'm going to hand it over back to Laura Florence, and we're going to address a question from the audience. Laura?
All right, so if you're interested to learn more, you can certainly download this Top 10 ERP Vendors report yourself off of panoramaconsulting.com. If you go to the ERP Resource Center, you'll find the link that you can download it. On the next slide, we've got information about our upcoming ERP and Business Transformation Bootcamp. So we will be hosting this April 22nd and 23rd in Denver, Colorado. This is your opportunity to really walk through what it might take to take on either a digital transformation or ERP project within your own organization. It's a pretty intense training. It's very interactive, and we will talk through all the aspects that we mentioned before, the people, the process, and the technology, and we're going to bring in representation from all of those different service areas from our company. This is also your opportunity to earn some CPE or PDU, continuing education credits. If you're interested in that, you can register at that link that's on the website there. Finally, I think Chris mentioned we've got a question coming up. So this says, hi, we are a $45 million manufacturing company. What products should we be looking at? Chris, do you want to take a step at that?
Yeah, so appreciate that. And in a $45 million manufacturing, and I appreciate the question there because we probably need some definition around, enterprise, large organization, and tier 1 versus tier 2. So when we really talk about small and mid-sized market, as Laura had mentioned earlier, $1 or $2 million, even startup revenue, all the way up to, 50 million is really that smaller type market. And then when you talk about the mid-market, really, 50 million upwards of 200 million. And then there's another space in there, kind of the upper tier 2 market, from 250 million up to about 750 million. So once a company reaches really $1 billion, we consider them a larger enterprise. But we're real careful to label, enterprise or tier 1 versus tier 2, because when it comes down to, scalability and whatnot, we really think about volumes of transactions, and we also think about complexity. So you may have a company that, and we work with these quite often, that's very small in startup phase, but they're very complex in their procedures and their processes, and therefore they need a more flexible or better technology to support those processes. Then we've worked with $1 billion plus clients who are as simple as can be. Maybe it's a large distribution client, and they really just have standard warehousing type inventory movements. They may be an enterprise type client, but they may need a mid-market solution because of the complexity that they do not have in their processes. And then Laura, I see another question here coming in about migrating from one vendor solution to another vendor solution. Yeah, and each of these vendor solutions, obviously, as we discussed, have a small mid-market presence in an enterprise. Each of the vendors, kind of do have a path from one system to another, but we always kind of take that with a grain of salt because you are going to have to do data conversion, and most likely you're going to have to do a re-implementation. And do a whole bunch of configuration as you're moving to a new ERP system. So while there are some benefits of sticking with your vendor and upgrading system there, we really think that you should still kind of evaluate all the possibilities, because it's not always just a simple upgrade project. Usually these are type of full-on re-implementations. So those are the last two questions there, and pass it back to Laura just to wrap up here.
Excellent. So as you can see, you've got my email address here. You have our website there. If you will go to our website and fill out the contact us form, put in free hour, or just say we'd like to have a consultation, we are more than happy to set up an hour with Chris or one of our other directors to discuss what you'd like to speak about. So thank you so much for joining us, and please do feel free to reach out if you have any further questions or if we can be of service.